Okay, round two. So I don't know what I did wrong on that last one that it didn't record the audio, but anyway. So here's kind of the stuff, financial stuff for you guys to all see and kind of, excuse me, hopefully speed the meeting up tomorrow night. So this is a financial recap from January of 2025 to June of 2025 when this is when IMHOA was in charge of things. So first line item here, expense, paying to Ace Recycling, some bank fees. Next one was Capital Solutions, which was the landscaping company that they is DBA for them. And then the next one, this HOA dues income refund. That was right when we were doing kind of the transition thing in June. They charged and then recharged, and it was kind of crazy. So that's why it shows as an expense under income right there. That this is 10,486 is what was collected. Then IMHOA fees and stuff. This these two are there, and down here this loan from IMHOA. Part of that these fees is the repayment of that $2,200. So that's stuff that cost us. Then they borrowed loaned that money to us, then it went back. Then this is part of our insurance. This is another insurance. This is a policy that they double paid on. They paid the premium twice and then kicking over. So this is July through November. This right here, this insurance, United States liability, this is the refund of the second time that it was paid right here. So in that January to June, had $13,000 worth of expenses, but only $12,000 of income, which is why things had to change. So July through November, since Victoria and I have been managing things, Ace Recycling, we have spent $1,600 on that, had HOA income, insurance, that much, and we'll be so the policy we'll get into it in a minute, but $6,600 a year total. Then this landscaping bill, that was paying off the landscaper that had been hired by IMHOA, so that needed to be cleared off and they got paid and have gone away. Processing fee is the bank fees for doing oh the online payments. Then the reserves, this is $100 that was paid into the bank account to get the bank account opened up at US Bank. And then Salt Lake City Utilities in that time frame has been the 1898, 1892. So total expenses of 6,669, income of 9,600. So that's the right direction as opposed to how it was. So big changes on expenses is in Ace Recycling. We had been set up at one dump a week, which was basically $210 a month, or $200 a month. I'm sorry. So 178 plus a 22 fuel surcharge, and that varies each month, give or take a few bucks. So it kind of ranges between about 18 and $26, but averaged out at that. So now we're at two dumps a week, $303 plus the fuel surcharge. So $325 a month, which is a $125 a month increase, which is $12.50 a month per unit, per townhouse. Salt Lake City. So we've got from October of 2024 up until the bill for August of this year, and all those 11 average out to $396 a month. And then there was a massive rate increase in Salt Lake City from the August to September billing that went. So that's why that jumped from 547 up to 801. October and November are the only two bills that we can do an actual year to year comparison on. So we had a $250 jump there. year to year changes, 141, 99. So those average out to $120 difference, which is what I have right here. So projecting, looking forward for 2026, kind of saying, okay, prior to the rate increase, this is what we averaged out at. It was 396. If we add $120 to it, which is averaging those two year to year changes that we can see, that's 515 or 516.86. So the budget number for next year for utilities is $515 a month. So it's got 515 and 325, which is substantially higher than what we had been. So this is kind of talking about Salt Lake City, how they did their budget increase. And when I called them in August after or September after getting that huge bill, the guy I talked to told me that they were planning another rate increase, that they had originally thought they would do it in 2026, but the public outcry had been so strong that they were probably going to push it off to 2027. So that 515 seems like it should be good at least for this year, and maybe next year we'll have to raise it up a little bit. Then just to garbage maintenance to keep everything cleared out well, we have to do 2 dumps a week instead of just the one that had been going the first part of the year. So this is kind of the proposed budget for 2026. So monthly bookkeeping and bank payment processing of $150 a month. Then the 515, like I mentioned, for the sewer and the water. 325 for the trash collection. Our insurance bill for the year was 6,604. So dividing that out monthly brings us back to $550 a month. Snow removal, this is just a guess, depending on how much snow we end up getting. Landscaping's kind of the same, just a little bit to spend for somebody to cut the grass out in the front there. A couple $100 to fix sprinklers that get broken. $600 to pay for backflow testing that'll be coming up again next year. And then $500 for uh, filing a tax return. So all of these things added up and divided out per unit is $180 per unit. So that's our monthly operating expenses, and our reserve contribution will be on top of that. So in order to have our reserve at the right level, we want it to be about 70% of the amount needed to cover the major repairs and stuff. The Folsom HOA is responsible for the roofing, the stucco, like stucco resurfacing, some stucco repairs, the metal siding, the doors, the landscaping, the fencing, the exterior mailbox. So all of that stuff is budgeted into this reserve assessment. And then the CCNRs say that we can make adjustments to that reserve assessment as we uh, feel good about. So anyway, this is kind of what we're looking at. So like this first line item, roofing, walkable membrane, it's supposed to have a 20-year life. And so in about 19 years, that will need to be replaced. And to do it now would cost $108,000. And looking forward, assuming a 3% inflation rate, which is like the current published CPI rate. Hopefully it stays at that or less, but we'll see. So if that's accurate, in 20 years, it's going to cost about $195,000 to replace all those membranes. Then the PVC roofing, which is the one up on top of the casitas, the awnings, that is a little more durable thing and it's not being walked on. That stuff's supposed to last for 25 years. Uh, I know I did back in 1995. I was a roofer and installed that on a roof by my parents' house, and it's still there. So that's just over 30 years now. But 25 years out, we're looking at $62,000 for that. The shingles, this is on the little eyebrows above each of the entry doors. It's not a lot of space, but they will need to be done. They're 50-year shingles, but they'll probably be worn out in about 30 years. So that will be, we got $7,200 budgeted there. Then stucco resurfacing the entire building in 20 years. Uh, right now would be about 22,000. 20 years, we're looking at roughly 40,000. So this 20-year out mark is when things are going to, that's the really big expense that we need to worry about. So it's 195,000 and another 40,000 plus a couple smaller things, but that's the real, those two are the real big items 20 years out. Stucco repairs, uh, that's going to be kind of a random thing that happens. Have some money set aside for that. Thin brick on the front, similar, just some money going to the being set in there for that. Repainting the metal siding on the front of the building, planning on that lasting 15 years. Then the vinyl siding around the doors, that's the siding that looks like wood. That'll be about 25 years out. The metal railing will need to be repainted every 5 years or so. So we got some money for that. Repainting the garage doors in 15 years. The entry doors and the casing around those doors, getting those repainted in about 15 years. Then totally replacing the rain gutters and downspouts in about 30 years. Then the perimeter fencing, every probably 3 years, it's going to need stained and sealed again. So looking at that would be roughly $2,500 now, 5 years out, 2989, and so on. Landscaping, doing a full replacement of that in like 18 years. The driveway replacement be like 50 years out. Sidewalk maintenance, again, this is not something to, it's hard to predict what that would be, but want some money there just in case over the years the sidewalk starts coming out of level and it needs to have some work done to it. And the mailbox will probably need replaced eventually. So looking at this perimeter fencing, so the 2,898, this is a, just remember this number for a second. So now this is the years of when this is going to go down. So this over here on the left, this is the elapsed year. So this is year one, and that's calendar year is year 2026. So 1, 2, 3. So next year we've got a stain the fence, 2,898. Then in year 5, again, stain the fence, 2,898. So that would be out in 2030. That's going to happen. And just have some money there to pay for some stucco repairs. Again, stain the fence in year 8. Just random things until we get down here to year 19. So in 2044, that's when the real big expense is scheduled to replace the walkable roof membrane and do the stucco resurfacing, possibly some work on the thin brick, and repaint the metal siding for a total of $239,000 that will need to be spent in about 2044. And then this just continues on. So in 2049, replace the vinyl, the PVC and the vinyl siding. Be another chunk, but that's not the real big one that we need to worry about is 2044. So then we get, and that just continues on. So again, remember the stain the fence, the $2,898 in 2027. Now, this is a cash flow analysis of what we expect to happen with the reserves. So this goes year by year. So starting in 2026 and starts out with a beginning of year balance of $4,000 in the reserve account and having $10,440 contributed to the account through that year. And this is to get that 10,440, that's $87 per unit that would need to contribute that. Then so starting 2027, there'd be $14,500 in that account. And the dues or the capital contribution would go up by $2. So from 87 to 89. And there'd be some interest income from that money in the savings account. And then right here, that 2,898 to stain the fence. So that is an expenditure we're expecting to happen 2027. So 2,898, which brings us down to 22,468, which rolls over to 2028, and so on until we get out here to 2044. So we're expecting to have a $239,000 expense in 2044. 70% of 239,000 is 167,000. So our beginning of year balance for 2044 would be 168,000. So we would hit that 70% threshold of having it be a financially healthy HOA. So in order to get this $4,000 in the reserve account to start with, right now we've got $2,566 in the checking account, and we've got $2,592 of outstanding HOA dues that haven't been paid yet, bringing it to a total of $5,158. And we've got the only payables that we have right now were $550 to Clearwater Backflow, and then another $1,025 to pay Victoria for the stuff that she has done the last 6 months, which leaves us with $3,583. In December, we should have about $400 to $500 left over after paying all of our utilities and maintenance fees and the garbage and all the operating expenses, which that 400 to 500 combined with this 3,500, 3,600, that's the 4,000 that will be there to start 2026. This is just a screenshot of the bank from today showing that there's $2,566 available in there. And again, expecting to have $4,000 by December 31st, January 1st of this year, of next year, sorry. Now, so the assessments, the CC&Rs allow us to make changes to the assessment every year and do it. It'll apply to everybody. So now this, looking forward on this budget, so this top right here, this is the $180 a month per unit of operating expenses that we have. So if we take that 180 and we keep dues the same, so the 216, that would put the reserve contribution at $36, which in 2024 would leave the owners needing to pay $212,738. So we'd keep our dues the same, but would only be 14% of the 2024 need. If we raise the dues to $250 a month, which is just offsetting the increase in the trash service and the Salt Lake City bill, so those were combined just slightly over $30 a piece. So $30 on top of 216 gets us to about 250. That means we'd have about $70 a month going into the reserve account, which would leave us about $106,000 short in 2044, which would only be about 50% of the amount needed. If we push the dues up to $267, that would put $87 a month into the reserve account, which would leave a shortage of $53,788 in 2044, which is 70% of what the 2024 expected need would be. And that is considered a healthy reserve balance, hitting that 70%. That's the balance that if any of you decided to sell and the buyers were utilizing an FHA loan, they would review that and say, okay, you're all right. We'll do the loan on this. And if we push the dues up to $284 a month, that would be 100% of the expected need in 2044. So those are kind of the four numbers that I feel are sort of applicable that we should talk about here. So keeping it at 216, raising it to 250, or raising it to 267. I feel like we should go to 267 because that will get us we'll be at the point where it will be considered a financially healthy HOA. But it's also not any money above that 267 is money that current owners are giving to whoever may be an owner in 2044. So it's not benefiting us as current owners to go beyond that 267 because that's considered the financially healthy, and we may or may not be owners in 20 years. So I vote for 267, but we can discuss it if somebody else feels that we should go with something else, whether it's, yeah, whatever direction it is. So that's, yeah, that's what we need to talk about. Then just as far as the HOA management stuff, this is the things that Tori and I have been dealing with, taking care of the last few months. And we're planning to just keep continuing with that since it's managed to get the finances in a much better position. So, and we also are going to need to vote for some board members. We'll need to set up 3 board members. So, anyway, yeah, hopefully this will help kind of make our meeting go a little more smoothly with everybody having kind of the information in advance of what the options are. So again, this is really the biggest thing that we need to deal with is setting dues for 2026. These are kind of the options. Think about it and we'll discuss it. Thanks so much.